I had what we used to call a Fraulein, a mother's helper, but the mother's helper came straight off the boat from Bremen. And so before my mother started teaching me to speak English, I spoke a few words. I had a childhood. I guess when I was very, very young, it was a rather privileged childhood. And I know that we used to, when I was very young, we used to go either to Maine or the Adirondacks all summer. And then when I was about, maybe 5, 6 years old, I was sent to a camp called Camp Cobbessy in Maine. And one of the things that they had at Camp Cobbessy was a swimming program. And I was scared stiff of the lake. I think I told you the story. And the swimming counselor was having a devil of a time trying to teach me how to swim. One point, my mother and my father came up to visit me at camp, and the swimming counselor said, "George won't go in the water." So my father said, "Throw him in," which is all he had to hear. So he picked me up and threw me in, and I swallowed at least half of the lake before I got out, and it took me years after that before I went in swimming again. The moral of this story is don't throw your kid in the lake. What can I tell you about my childhood? I lost my father when I was a very young boy. I think you know that. I was 8 or 9 years old. I think it was 8, almost 9, because he died in March and my birthday was in April. And I never really got to know him that well, which is rather too bad, because from all I've heard, he was quite an interesting individual. He was really and truly, he worked his way through college and medical school and became quite a prominent doctor for his day. And I'm sorry that I didn't know him better, and if I had known him better, I may very well have followed his footsteps and become a physician myself. But not having known him, I was pretty much brought up by my mother after I was 8 years old. And she was a very strong-willed and I would say loving but very domineering. And in a way, it probably was a good thing that I was called up into the Army. Otherwise, I might, although she died some years ago, I might still be living with her. What can I tell you about my boyhood? What I remember, I guess, is quite vividly are certain things that occurred during the Depression. I was born, rather, you know when I was born, but the Depression started with a collapse of the stock market in 1929, and from 1929 almost to 1936, our country was in very, very bad financial straits. At the depth of the Depression, in our industrial areas, we had fully 1/3 of our workforce unemployed, and in certain other areas, particularly in the rural Southwest, not only was there a terrible depression, but there was an erosion of the soil, because in those days, I guess they didn't know how to treat the land as well as they did today. And they had terrible dust storms that caused a tremendous exodus of rural poor people from places like Arkansas and Oklahoma, and off they went mostly to California, where they were hated. It was a very, very bad time in our country's history. And we're near a revolution. And I remember we lived near Riverside Drive in New York, and the West Side Highway had not yet been built. And there was a there were railroad tracks there, and then from the railroad tracks to the Hudson River, it was sort of a dumping ground. And a group of homeless men built, did you hear that? A group of homeless men built what we would then call a Hooverville, because it was named after our president, Herbert Hoover, at that time. And they built houses, or I should say, not houses, but lean-tos and protection against the elements from discarded wooden crates and cardboard crates and anything they could get hold of. And I remember quite vividly that my mother used to make lots and lots of sandwiches for these men, and she would send me down to distribute the sandwiches. And it's something that I guess in your generation you're never going to see, and I hope you never see. But I remember it quite vividly because it was something that you don't forget. What else can I tell you about my childhood? I went to public school, and I went to public high school at Dewitt of Clinton, and then I went to New York University at what was then the University Heights College, which unfortunately no longer belongs to New York University because they concentrated on the major part of the university, which was downtown in the Washington Square area. Hard to say what was most memorable. I guess going to high school and to begin to start becoming a person in my own right a little bit. Apparently I had some talent in writing, and I was able to tell jokes and that sort of thing. So I got a column in the high school newspaper. I went to Dewitt Clinton High School, and the column was called Dewitt of Clinton, and Dewitt of Clinton happened to be me. And I wrote all sorts of little stupid things in there, and of course I got other people to write too for it. And maybe the most memorable thing I can remember that I wrote was a poem that was a takeoff, if I can remember this, I don't know. But it was a takeoff of a poem by Vachel Lindsay, who you might want to read sometime, called The Congo. Breezy students in the Clinton lunchroom sagged and reeled and pounded on the table, made as much noise as they were able. Boom-lay, 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 boom. Throwing round the dishes, gulping down the grub, screaming and laughing in the general hubbub, banging on the table with a cup of a spoon. Boom-lay, 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 boom. Then I heard a plate drop and break with a bongo, and the first thing you know, I was thinking of the Congo, big fat black bucks eating in the Congo. Boom-lay, 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 boom. Cannibals dancing around a man-sized pot, white man in it, feeling mighty hot. Screaming, yelling, advancing and recoiling, white man ready, see the water boiling. Come and get your white meat, cut 'em up to chunks. Each painted cannibal takes some meat and dunks it in white man's blood. Cannibals smile 'cause it tastes mighty good. Then from the hills of Timbuktu comes low wailing, be careful what you do. Oh, Munchroom, Bunchroom, god of the lunchroom, and all the other gods of the lunchroom. Munchroom, Bunchroom will voodoo you. Munchroom, Bunchroom will voodoo you. Munchroom, Bunchroom will voodoo you. Sorry, Vachel Lindsay. That's it.